Hey, you wild women. Okay, before we dive in, there's a couple of things I want to talk about because it's a new year. And I know we talk about new year, new you, and all this new energy, but I feel like I was living this consistent growth over the last year for many reasons. One is because I decided that I was worth it, decided that I was worth this new version of me, this new mindset, these new beliefs, these new values. And I want to talk about that and why it's pertinent to this episode: transitions, identity shifts, and how to thrive in new chapters. But before we jump in, I do want to talk about kind of the influence of this episode is the Pink Skirt Project. So if you haven't heard yet, on June 12th of this year in Kelowna, BC, I am hosting the inaugural Pink Skirt Project. It is a one-day summit where we are gathering 300 women, incredible souls, female entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs, or people who want to change their life, incredible speakers and keynotes, some quick coaching sessions, some panels, and some surprise guests coming in, all in celebration of you, of the listener, of the female entrepreneurs who are looking to make a massive impact, who are looking to make shifts in their life, and they need that gentle nudge. They need the inspiration to go, to do it, to take the leap, and to create a community of fellow cheerleaders around them. So that's what the Pink Skirt Project is all about. You can go to thepink-skirt-project.com to get your tickets today. And if you are thinking about doing this, let me tell you, the Airbnb and hotel situation here is getting tricky. So book your hotel, get your ticket, get your plane ticket, and come and join us for this incredible day. I'm so stoked to have you there. And on top of that, beyond excited to share with you our sponsor for the Into the Wild podcast, Linked VA, linkedva.com. Linked VA is an incredible organization run by Amy Wallen who helps you find the ultimate virtual assistant. Now, if you are a longtime listener of the show, you know my husband wrote the book, Buy Back Your Time. And in chapter 1, I think he talks about getting an assistant. The best thing I did in my life was leveling up with an assistant from day one. This is somebody who is going to take over the tasks that you're not good at, that you shouldn't be doing, so that you can focus on the vision, the dream of your business. You can't grow it doing $10 tasks, but you can find somebody who is trained, who is incredible at doing it. And Linked VA is the place to go. So go check them out, linkedva.com. Okay, so now on to talking about the idea of mindset shifts, the idea of new identities, new labels, getting rid of labels. I wrote down notes as I do for every show, but I was actually just in the bathroom thinking about this and how we sometimes just hold on to something for far too long because it is comfortable, it is convenient, it is expected, it's easy, right? Just like how water goes through the place of least resistance, same with our identity. So for me, this was transitioning out of the world of public relations. This past summer, I sold my agency and now I'm doing the Pink Skirt Project and my podcast. Let me tell you, the podcast, we are going on year 5 now. When did I launch this? Yeah. In April, it'll be 5 years old. And we have well over 300 episodes and I've spoken to hundreds of guests and I've sat here on this side of the screen so many times doubting myself because of the story I told myself about who I am, who I was going into it to the person I am today. 5 years is a massive difference. My kids' life, they only know me having a podcast. Most people give up by now. Most people, when they don't see the numbers come in, they don't have millions of downloads per episode and they're not monetizing their show, given up by now. But with conviction, I knew I needed to do the show and I've landed sponsors and they are the perfect fit and I have great listeners and it just keeps growing from here. It's like what I'll talk about is this moment of momentum. When you're picking away at something for so long and it finally hits, you finally get that thing that starts to move that snowball or that ball further and faster. You're like, you know that you're onto it. And so We're talking about that today with transitions and identity and labels and stuff. So, like you, like me, is we tend to resist change because our current identity, whatever that is, even if it's super uncomfortable, it's safe, it feels familiar. It's like the devil that you know. This resistance to changing anything is deeply rooted in the fact that we often subconsciously work to maintain our existing self-image, even if it no longer serves us, because it's who we are, right? We just say, throw our hands up in the air. It's just who we are. So then it is what it is. The fear isn't just about the external changes, but about who we might become in the process if we decide to break free from this. There's comfort in being able to predict how others see us and how we fit into our social circles, into our family. And like the idea of changing our identities or our labels threatens the predictability. We default to doing things that are comfortable and predictable. So an identity shift is like throwing everything we know about ourselves and the expectations of us out the window. Maybe you worry about the loss of connections you'll have with people that are, especially those you love and care about, who know you for your current role and are the ones that are actually holding you hostage to that current role. They won't think that maybe you're as competent. They might lose respect for you. And these are people who maybe to this point in your life, you've done everything you can to serve their expectations of you, even if it was inauthentic. And maybe you're doing this now where you're depositing energy and attention into someone or something because you think that's what people want of you or need of you. And it's just not who you are. For me, that was running a PR agency. I was good at it. I was known for it. Sales were relatively easy for me because people just trusted that I knew what I was doing. Even despite closing those deals and maintaining decent profit margins, it just didn't feel right. I did not like the work anymore. And I was partially afraid of the logistics of closing down a business or like all the conversations I'm going to have about why it ended. Here's what happened. No one gave a crap. Not a single person was like, well, why did you do that? They were just like, what are you doing now? But even then, like the what are you doing now question didn't even come up because I was so involved in the Pink Skirt project and on this podcast that they're excited for me. So they see this transition. So it's like this was already set up. So the conversations that I thought I needed to have about why I got out of PR, they never happened. Funny story about that, side note too, is every morning I journal. I have this like little journal that I journal in, and there's no prompts. It's just kind of, sometimes I write a sentence, sometimes I write 2 pages, sometimes I write a to-do list. I just sit there and I just write what comes to mind. But because we had been away for a month, I hadn't had an entry since the beginning of December. When I went back to that entry, and I should have brought it with me to read it, it basically listed out all the things that could possibly go wrong on my trip. I listed out all my doubts and fears, all the things that worried me about going away for a month. And when I reflected back on it, none of it happened. Not a single thing happened. So we spend so much time worrying about what we think is going to happen, what people are going to say. Most of the time, it just doesn't happen. And so when we look at these opportunities in our life to like unfold this new chapter or to move or to get a promotion or to completely jump ship, the one thing we often tell ourselves and we ask ourselves is, what are people going to think? Really, nobody is thinking about you. Everybody's thinking about themselves and no one cares. So my story is that I sold my PR agency, which is the truth. That's a great ending. No one questioned that acquisition. No one questioned about what's next. I'm already doing it. I'm already doing it. And even if they did ask that, I would know what to answer. But I was so not afraid of leaving that identity behind. I was so not afraid of not being that PR person. People still ask me today, hey, Renee, can I hire you? And I know these people are like 10 to 20K a month projects, but I'm like, absolutely not. That is not fulfilling. And really, I'm not in it for the money, as you should be either. You should be in it for the impact. So the biggest barrier that I found isn't usually the practical steps of change, right? So the thing is, if you just quit the job or if you just close down the company, you're no longer the PR expert, then you're something else. No, that just seems so practical. But it's really about these deep-seated beliefs that you have about your current identity that somehow you make real. It's somehow you push yourself to believe it to be true. And even though there's like a little part of you intuitively saying, but this is not true and it's okay. And sometimes there's no reversing things. For instance, like I actually admitted this to my spiritual therapist the other day. And you know what? We're an intimate group here. So I'm going to be completely honest with you. I've been working with her for a few years now. And I said one day after meditation, after like really leaning into this coaching session with her, I don't know if I like being a mother. I said that. And the first thing that came to my mind wasn't, oh, Renee, how can you support yourself on this? Or how can you go deeper on this? The first thing that came to mind is people are going to think I'm a terrible human being for not wanting to be a mother. They're going to say, how dare you? What was the point of you having kids then? The label of a mother was the missing piece, the label, the identity of what it means to be a mother. For me, the identity of what it meant to be a good mother was not something I was fulfilling. So when I said, I don't like being a mother, really what I was saying is, I don't like being a mother according to today's standards of what makes a good mother. I love my kids more than anything in the world, and I will do anything for them. They are the best, most important thing that have ever happened to me. There's no doubt. They've given me the best gift that I could ever ask for. So all of this to say, maybe there's moments in your life where you're questioning yourself about this too. It's not that you're not wanting that identity, you're not wanting that label. It's that you don't want the thing that is defined for you already. So what an opportunity to redefine what that means to you. That's why I created the Pink Skirt Project, to help women redefine success on their own terms. I'm a successful mother now, and it took me 13 years to get to this point because I redefined what a good mother meant. It's not the stay-at-home mom who pours every ounce of her energy into her kids and leaves nothing for herself. Quite frankly, that's the worst mother. And if that's you, I'm sorry. It's not about you giving it all to everything, everyone else. It's actually you being content and satisfied and fulfilled and aligned with the things that you're doing. I just interviewed the incredible woman, Danielle White, about how she grew up in Utah and she was Mormon, and that was not fulfilling to her. Now, it could have been to her siblings and her community, but she actually had to walk away from that life, which meant that she walked away from friends and family that loved her because she had a different calling. She wanted to be the mother, but not in the constructs of that religion or that family. So when we're connecting these values and labels and identities to a thing, that you still want that thing, but not in the manner in which you understand it to be, it's an opportunity for you to change it. I don't know what it means to be a Mormon. I really don't. I have so many incredible Mormon friends. In fact, they're some of my favorite people in the entire world. And maybe because of the religion, I don't know. But I know some of them do not subscribe to the exact expectations of what it means to be Mormon. I know there are a lot of people who don't subscribe to the exact expectations of what it means to be the perfect wife either. Like, I know what the perfect wife is for my husband, and I'm certainly not that, but I'm a lot of other things that didn't make that list. Okay. So let's think about then the discomfort. Okay, where the discomfort comes from, looking at my notes. So this is what I thought about. There's discomfort in these labels, and it comes from three main areas. One is a loss of familiar reference points. So if you're like moving away from something, maybe you're moving into a new city, or you're not working in the industry you want to anymore, you're losing familiar reference points of what it means to be and fill that role. The other one is it challenges your sense of competence. Perfect example for me. PR is really predictable for me. But running a first-time event with 300 attendees, I feel so incompetent. incredibly incompetent, to the point where sometimes I ask myself, maybe I should just go and do something else because I don't feel like this is the thing I should do. I don't feel like people would trust me. Guess what? Not been an issue to date. The third thing that I wrote down is a shift in how others perceive and interact with us. So the perception thing and how they interact with us is huge. I don't know if I've ever shared the story, but I remember as a child, I was not, what can I say? I was not built to go to school the way the system is today. I know there's a lot of kids, probably most kids. I know my kids aren't. And to be sat in this classroom, forced to learn, in the 80s and the 90s, forced to learn subject matter where everything was just so masculine and patriarchal and male dominated. And then these expectations of me to be really good at every subject it was tough. And I was not good at math. I was not good at sciences. And just by way of not being good at those things, because it wasn't my strong suit back in the day, if you were really good at math, it didn't matter if you sucked at everything else, you were considered intelligent. So if you're good in math and science, but you were terrible in English or terrible in drama or terrible at gym, terrible at whatever, home ec, you were still considered intelligent. It's kind of ironic, isn't it? So the one subject matter that was the worst for me labeled me dumb. People called me stupid. People called me terrible in math, and they would never partner with me in physics, and they would never partner with me in math, to the point where I actually went from like normal math in high school to, I forget what it is, but like basic math. I felt stupid. And they certainly made you feel stupid so that you identified as the person who can't do math. So almost like you fit in, you belong there. So to this day, I still feel dumb. I still feel like, I'm not intelligent, that I can't be trusted with my ideas because of that. Now, I've had many years of breaking down these beliefs, but I put this label. And even my kids joke about it. They're like, oh, don't have mama help with the math homework. The more you lean into these labels and identity, the more you become them. So I allowed myself to say, I am actually quite intelligent. I just find math challenging, and that's a human thing to find a subject matter challenging. And like my husband would say, I find understanding women challenging. I'm like, oh, now you get what it's like for me to do math as a joke. But the more I allowed to believe myself that I could actually do this, the easier it came to help my kids do their homework. But the problem is they changed the rules of how to add and subtract and division. Oh my gosh, so it's like learning all over again. So the shift in how others perceive and interact with us, I did not allow myself to believe in the label that I'm dumb, that I suck at math. I allowed myself to believe that I am challenged by that subject, but that does not define my intelligence. And the moment I actually believed myself, the moment when everything changed, now I can ask for things with conviction. Now I say I'm going to have a sellout event, 300 women. I've never done this before, but I know it's going to happen because I believe in it so much. So this identity recalibration is actually a healthy and necessary part of growth, even though it can feel completely destabilizing in the moment. So there are natural resistance and emotional responses we experience to these shifts. And I would want you to reflect on those moments too. But there's a couple of things that I want to chat about with regards to this. So one is, here are some things to thrive during these moments of shift and departures and new beginnings in your life. You have to understand all the great people in the world, the people that you look up to, your mentors, your leaders, the people you aspire to be, they all embrace uncertainty as a catalyst for growth. They are almost addicted to the fact that they don't know what they don't know. They're addicted to risk and taking risk and being afraid and being uncomfortable, knowing that on the other side of that is the most growth they can expect, the most growth that they can possibly achieve, because you can't You can't live your dream life being comfortable. You can't live your dream life walking around with the labels that some other people have put on you since you were a child. You have to let those go. The thing you also need to do is to create new routines and support systems. What are your routines? Like in the morning, oh gosh, let me tell you, I've been finicking with this forever. But I kept writing out as of late my perfect morning routine because I'm really trying to start training for a half marathon. Turns out you got to start running in order to train. I said I'm going to be journaling by 5 a.m., reading my 10 pages by 5:30 a.m., and then I'm going to run on the treadmill from 6 to 6:30, make breakfast for the boys, to be showering by 6:45. I mean, in hindsight, it's absolutely possible. But I find my default in the morning is more like super deep cognitive work. This is where I get my best ideas. This is where I get the best work done. It's fresh brain, undisturbed time in the day where nobody else is awake. So I am essentially forcing myself to have a morning routine that is so counterintuitive to how I operate that it just seems so impossible and unrealistic. So I have to change that. And this is about creating systems that support me, not necessarily what the billion-dollar CEOs do. Like, I get it. Some of them work out every morning. And I think there was a study that was done during the pandemic that proved the majority of top CEOs with top companies actually work out every morning, first thing when they wake up. But not every single one of them, a lot of them. So anyway, coming back to this is, here's a really cool tool that I used. This is a tool for self-discovery. And you have to focus on these. Okay, so these three things. When I was actually shifting from the world of PR to what I do today, shifting from, being an unmarried woman to married, shifting from being not a parent to a mother of two really quickly, I had to ask myself these questions. Who I was. So these are past roles, skills, beliefs. Who I am now. This is my current state. Who I am becoming. This is the emerging qualities and the aspirations. So who was I is a very important woman in my life because she's helped me come to who I am now. And then who I am now is the ultimate prediction of who I will become. Going through this and maybe even asking yourself this every single day while you're going through a transition will help you profoundly understand not only who you are, but the possibility of who you can become. So my one piece of advice in all of this is it doesn't matter what you believe about yourself. Well, I mean, it does, but I'm going to get to the point. It doesn't matter what you're doing. It doesn't matter what your goals are. Wherever you're doubting yourself in this particular chapter of your life, get around the people who will support your new identity. These are the people who see and support your emerging identity rather than reinforcing your old patterns. These are your cheerleaders. These are the people who want to see you win and want to win with you. The more you can get around those type of people, the more influence they will have on the person you are aiming to become. And one last plug, June 12th, the Pink Skirt Project, Kelowna, BC, those women exist in that room. I 100,000,000% guarantee showing up, just the nature of showing up. You don't even have to ask a question. Being in that room with that curated group of women will be transformative because this is an event unlike any other that I've been to, at least, where the whole purpose of us gathering is to help us redefine success on our own terms, which means dropping old labels, dropping old identities, getting unstuck to believe in ourselves again so that we can go and conquer the things that we want to conquer, create impact and lasting change. So if you're interested, the Rise tickets are on sale at thepinkskirtproject.com. That's thepinkskirtproject.com. And as always, I've updated everything on Instagram all the time, Renee_Warren. So come and follow me there. Until next time, ladies, peace out.